Welcome to the Army List Analysis series, and today we are looking at the Thracian Getae 279 BC list with Dacian 50 BC allies. This is in the classical period, and as you can see, this is essentially a warband army. We have 8 of the warband, but this is loose order warband, so essentially like medium foot really. They suffer the -1 modifier against heavy foot in the open. We've also got the picked warbands, also loose order, so they've got the cohesion check modifier in the open as well against heavy foot, but they're superior quality, so they're pretty decent. And the Folksmen, I quite like these units actually. I did some tests. I was doing some tests, and the standard unit is something like the citizen hoplites. So in the tests I was doing on impact, the picked warbands against your citizen hoplite unit, on impact they were up 160. They were up 160 POA on impact, which is great, fantastic. Your standard loose order warband was up 110 POA up on the hoplites on impact, and your Folksmen were up 50. Now you might say, well, that's not as good as the other units, but when you look at what happens after impact in melee, the picked warband only evens against your standard spear, and your loose order warband are down 50 against spear because they're only swordsmen. So, your standard spear gets that 100 POA advantage, and then the swordsmen are only on 50. But the Folksmen are actually still up on 50 because they're superior quality. And that makes the difference. So they've got the heavy weapon, which cancels out the spear, but then they've got that 50 for spearmen. So they are actually pretty decent. I didn't realize how good they are. Obviously, unprotected, you got to be a little bit conservative with them and hold them back and try and keep them away from skirmishers and missile fire, but once they get going they can be really good. And then we've got some mercenary hoplites, just a little bit more maneuverable than your standard hoplites, but the same unit essentially, and then a raw hoplite unit. So that gives us about 19 infantry units. About 19. Cavalry, fairly standard, but we got noble cav, which I really like. Great price at 44, superior quality. Once in melee, they can do really well. And then we've got just a couple of the armored noble cav as well. Skirmishers, we've got 8, and we've got a fair selection of the cheaper end skirmishers, which I always like. That just means you can spend your points on other units. And then we've got some light horse archers and light javelin horse, which are preset. We can't change those around. So changing things up a bit. Probably not so much that you can do, but let's say you want to take out some cav. Let's take out some armored noble cav. Maybe we could take out 2 skirmishers, gives us 109, and then we could maybe add another warband. I mean, you can take out loads more if you really wanted to. If you just, if you went with hardly any cav or hardly any skirmishers, you could just be a total warband army. So, and then these great Folksmen. So we've now got an extra unit and another warband. So that takes us to 21 infantry. If you've been following my videos, that's a little bit over the norm. It's, you know, a lot of those pike armies were around 17, 18 units. The Romans in my build had about 21. I think Lysimachid had about 21. So now we're on 21, which is probably, you know, more than most armies can field. So we've got some numbers there. And that gives us 5 cav, which isn't too bad. I mean, most armies have around that number, not much more. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit underwhelmed. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this army. There are some issues. Firstly, you know, your best units, especially these warband units, they're light medium foot. They're warriors. They suffer against heavy foot in the open. That additional modifier, and this is a real problem because, you know, you don't have any bona fide, decent, good quality, superior quality heavy foot. You're relying on these units to survive against heavy foot in the open, and I think that is a big issue. I did have a quick look back. We've done some, you know, we looked at some armies recently that were quite similar in terms of impact, mostly impact foot warband. I mean, the Gallic army we looked at a few days ago had a lot of impact foot, but the difference there was, you know, you had 4 superior warband units. You know, they are heavy foot. They are superior quality. They're great units. You know, they're kind of the core of your army. Plus, we had some veteran Samnites as well. So, you know, they've got some really decent troops there. That Spanish list, the Sartorius list, they had 3 Roman legionnaires and 3 of the heavy foot warband, your standard heavy foot warband, not this loose order warrior kind. So they had 6, that list had 6 good heavy foot units, where we just don't have any, on the impact side at least. You know, even these are essentially light medium foot as well. So most of your army, literally almost all of your infantry, is light medium foot, and then we've just got, you know, 4 hoplite units, and this is actually raw hoplite units. So this is, you know, this army could easily fall apart, I think. I would just like some decent, whether it be pike units, whether it be superior warband, legionnaires, you know, whatever it be, something, you know, that you can use as the hammer, you know, the center of your army, but we just don't have that with this list. So that's not good. And also, you know, impact, everything is impact. So I gave you some stats before about, you know, even against your average spear, you know, what we've got, is it 9 of these loose order warband units, and, you know, in melee against just citizen hoplites, they're 50 down. That's not good. So as you can probably tell, I'm not raving about this army. Now, I had a look at the record. Not many players have used this army yet. Maybe it's quite a new army, I forget. There's only been about 18 games played, and it's on 39%. I mean, I'm you know, those players, please, you know, comments below if you've taken this army out in the league and you've won with it, let us know. And I have actually looked this season, and there's been some, looking at this army now, and from what I'm saying, I find this quite astonishing. But there's a player in Division D. I'm going to actually contact him. We'll get him on. We'll try and get him to make some comments below on YouTube comments. Doc Van Nostrand. He's a Division D player in Classical, and he's had some fantastic results. Just recently he posted that he beat Marco Cato, who had the Roman 105 list. Now that list, the Roman 105, I haven't covered that yet. I played with it and played against it. That is a really, really good Roman army. It's one of the better ones. I've on this series, I've covered the Roman 199 list, and generally speaking, if you look at the record, a lot of players tend to take the 199 list or the 105 list. They're the two of the most popular armies to take out in the Roman list. And somehow it was a close one, but he won 60-55. So he managed to beat the Romans with this army, which I find quite amazing. He's also posted a win against Random and the Lysimachid 320 army, which I've already covered, and that is a really decent pike army, and he won 46-19. So, maybe he got a bit lucky with his rolls. Maybe this warrior medium foot kind of issue isn't such an issue. Maybe if you get good impact, that's what it's all about. But I find it quite surprising that he managed to pull out those wins with this army from what I'm seeing here in front of me. Maybe I've missed something. So again, it would be nice if we could get him to comment and tell us maybe not now, it's in the middle of the league. Maybe, when the season's over, maybe he'll go into more detail. But even if he could just make some general comments, that might be interesting to hear. There's another player as well, Clay Eccles in Division A, a really good player. He's taken this army out. He hasn't got a win yet, but he's only played one game. So, let's keep an eye on Doc Van Nostrand and Clay Eccles. I'm going to go on the record here. I'm going to go on the record and say I will be surprised if they both end up with winning records. And even one of them to end up on a winning record, I think will be really tough. So let's see. My rating, it's going to be pretty low, as you can imagine. I guess you've got some pick war bands. They are superior quality. I really do. And also the Folksmen are superior quality as well. So I guess you've got 7 units that are half decent there. Okay, that's going to pull it back up a bit. All right, I'm going to go B-. I was thinking about the C's, but thinking about these picked war band and the Folksmen, maybe about a B-. But let's see how these guys do on the front line. And maybe I'll modify my rating later on. But for me, it's a B-. It could have been worse. It might still be worse later on when I come back to have a look at this army. If you played with this army, let us know. If you're playing against it, maybe I've been too harsh on this list. Let us know. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again soon.